Okay, thanks. So we've, even though we're 30 seconds ahead, I'll introduce the first speaker, Roman Washiletsko, who actually was the person who first hired me when I was a student at University of Rostrand. I just quit doing a master's, and I got a phone call from this Canadian Voice saying, "I hear you're an unemployed geophysicist." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Really, could you come in for an interview tomorrow?" So I said, "Yes." I went for the interview. He said, "Can you start work tomorrow?" So I said, "Yes." I started work. So I arrived at the office and he says, "You're going to Botswana tomorrow." So anyway, I'll hand over to Roman to give the first talk. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. That was actually good old days and fun days. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you to the Exploration 17 Committee for inviting me to give this presentation on ARMIT TDEM and upgrades to the Abitibi Geophysics TDEM system. Abitibi Geophysics believes in innovation because innovation is a response to clients' problems, clients' challenges. And the main challenges that we do see and often hear about are depth of exploration. That's probably the number one, and as you can see on the right-hand side, there's a number of things that we have done, and I will talk about each of them in turn. The other one, of course, is detection of a wide range of conductor types. You need different sensors for different targets, and we address that issue. And of course, resolution, because that you need to define your drill targets with the best resolution, etc. Yeah, got it. 10 years ago at this conference, Abitibi presented Infinitem system. And Infinitem is an elongated infinity sign that results in two lobes of a loop with reversed polarity so that it generates a deep horizontal primary field which couples ideally with steeply dipping conductors. So that was a good starting point for the last number of years to look at, deeper conductors. But the problem has always been to get more power into that loop, to get deeper than what we were getting already, etc. And this is where Infinitem XL came in that you have the same arrangement, but you don't have any wire between those two loops. Instead, you have two synchronized transmitters. So now we've increased the power to each loop very substantially. And the dipole moment, because you've eliminated the wire between the loops, you can also increase the size of the loops and the separation between the loops. We've been able to get 4 to 6 times larger dipole moment at that. So that was the key development of this past 2 years to get this configuration to work to increase depth of penetration. Another way to increase signal to noise was to improve and increase the power that is transmitted into the loop. And, I don't want any Australians laughing here, but, they have these huge transmitters on the backs of trucks and so forth, and we don't have that option in Canada. We need people to be able to handle a motor generator, a transmitter, etc. So we're talking of portability. The 75 kilograms is as important as the amps that go into the loop. So that's what we're talking about. And of course, improving the quality of the pulse, etc. At the time that this development was going on, the transmitters commonly available were putting out 10, 12 amps into the loop. And for the Infinitem loop, that just wasn't good enough. The brute force increased amps into the loop does a tremendous job of cleaning up the signal, as you can see. There's nothing else that's been changed in this configuration other than the transmitter. And of course, the sensor itself. For many years, the air coil loop of copper wire was a very effective sensor, and it is still a very good sensor. However, the ARMIT sensor has shown that it can explore much, much deeper, detect a broader range of conductor types, conductivities, and it measures B field and DBDT, so there's 2 surveys and 1 pass. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the ARMIT sensor development. It started over a beer at PDAC 2010 and led to a development agreement partnership with RMIT University. And now you're beginning to see how we came up with the name ARMIT. A for Abitibi and RMIT for ARMIT. The objective was to develop a sensor that was more practical than a squid, and eliminating helium or nitrogen in the field was a critical point of that. And to achieve a lower noise than culture, spherics, and the DAS system was critical to competing with the sensors that did use helium and nitrogen. Of course, the fact that it measures B field and DBDT and a wide bandwidth that can cope with a wide range of conductance is critical. The achievement of these systems is what I'm here to talk about today, and show you sort of the proof of the pudding, so to speak. What have we detected? What does the data look like? And some comparison to previous data. The first one is a client that prefers to stay anonymous at this point in time. It's a VMS Brownfields discovery. And then I'll show you some data from Athabasca, Quebec's Coulon project, and Rice Island nickel copper project. The VMS discovery is at greater than 800 meters. And to be able to detect this, we're talking of a 2 loops that are 800 meters by 2,500 meters, separated by 1,400 meters. And it's 24 amps going into each loop to generate a dipole moment of 96 million NIA. This is what an anomaly looks like over a conductor that is over 800 meters deep. The black data is the measured B field, and the red is the modeled Maxwell curves with a pretty good fit. This anomaly was drilled, and there was an intersection of sulfides. There were 3 intersections, and the bottom one, which is pyrrhotite, is at over 1,000 meters downhole, or about 830 meters vertically, and it corresponds with an off-hole anomaly that, represents a significant sulfide body, as you can see. Wheeler River is a uranium discovery by Denison Mines in the Athabasca Basin. The target is a graphitic horizon that is between 500 and 600 meters deep at that point. And the idea was to map that that horizon. And so we did a whole bunch of lines there, and there was close proximity to a line that was previously surveyed in 2006 using a 3D3 coil. On the left panel, you have the 3D3 survey conducted in 2006, and on the center panel, you have the ARMIT DBDT data survey in 2014. The transmitter and the current and the coil and the loop size are pretty much the same. What is different here is the ARMIT sensor. And on the far right panel, you have the B field from the ARMIT sensor, which is measured at the same time as the DBDT. The signal to noise is considerably improved, and which makes the inversion and interpretation that much more accurate. The project in Quebec, which I have a comparison of data for, had more parameters change in it. It was a 3D3 coil in 2006 with an infinitum loop configuration, but in 2014 it was an infinitum XL with 2 transmitters, so there was more power, and the ARMIT sensor. On line 2200 north, there was a shallow conductor, and as you can see, the Geonics DBDT profile is very nice and defines it. The ARMIT DBDT is equally the same, and the B field. So if you have a shallow conductor, the sensor type hardly matters. However, this conductor is plunging to the north and will go 400 meters north to line 2600. And on the left, you have the results using the 3D3 coil. And as you can see, there is not an anomaly that you would put money on to drill. However, on the center panel, the ARMIT DBDT does define an anomaly fairly clearly, good signal over noise envelope, and the B field is even more improved. So the ARMIT is proving itself to have a better signal to noise than many other sensors. Most recently, we were working on the Rice Island project for Wolf Den Resources. They had flown an airborne VTEM survey there and wanted to delineate select drill targets out of that on a priority basis. Fairly large area to cover, so rapid reconnaissance was important. And we selected the ARMIT Infinitum XL loop configuration to do that. So we're talking of fairly large loops, 800 meters by 2,500 meters, I believe that is, separated by 800 meters. This diagram shows the VTEM axis of the fairly long conductor. Has some sulfides on it already that are known, and the idea was, can we delineate a priority target for drilling purposes there? And that's exactly what Infinitum XL did. On where that arrow ends, the message box ends on the right-hand side with Infinitum, there's a closure of a number of contours there, identifying a conductor of greater conductivity and a greater depth extent. So that became the priority drill target. I'm going to also show you some profiles on the Rice Island conductor to the south in the green, which is lower amplitude but has been drilled pretty extensively and as a known conductor there. There had been a previous fixed loop survey on that section of the grid, and that's the data presented in red. The ARMIT Infinitem is the blue profiles. And as you can see, with the two lobes of the Infinitem XL loop, we are able to energize both conductors so that there are no hidden conductors or shielded conductors because the loop is on one side of one conductor. So this is a credit to Infinitem XL system to be able to clearly resolve two conductors that are fairly close together. The VTEM that is on the line nearest to that ground line is not exactly clear in terms of whether there's one or two conductors. A line 3250, which is 300 meters further to the east. Once again, the red profiles are from a fixed loop EM survey. And once again, the blue lines of Infinitem XL do resolve two conductors. And it's the loop configuration that is energizing both conductors and helping us differentiate this target. The VTEM results are pretty complex here, and I'll leave that for airborne experts to determine whether there's two conductors there or not. So in the last 10 years of innovation, Abitibi Geophysics has addressed the depth of exploration issue through a number of ways. It's the loop configuration, it's the increased power of the transmitter, and the higher sensitivity of the ARMIT sensor that's helping us achieve that. The ARMIT is certainly responsible for the broad range or broad bandwidth of conductance that we can detect with one system, with one pass, and the resolution of multiple conductors, avoiding any shielding that might occur with a single loop system. And of course, the borehole EM benefits as well because the ability to energize conductors at great depth is there. Thank you very much.